Board of Governors of the California Community Colleges to order. Let's start with the roll call. Karen?
Arnaldo Avalos, Jeffrey Baum, Joseph Belinsky,
Present.
Scott Budnick,
Here.
Whoa.
Connie Conway, Iman Dalili, Tom Epstein, Cecilia Estelano,
Here.
Danny Hawkins,
Good morning.
Pamela Haynes,
Here.
Hassan Khan,
Here.
Deborah Malumed, Jennifer Perry, Mon Fan,
Here.
Gary Reed, Valerie Shaw, Nancy Sumner.
Present. Great. All right. So I'm going to call on Board Member Sumner to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it serves, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. So, welcome everybody to the March meeting of the Board of Governors. I'm going to proceed with my president's report. I want to start off by welcoming Man Fan, who is our newest member of the Board of Governors. And Professor Fan, I could ask you to maybe say a few words about yourself and introduce yourself to the board.
Well, thank you, Madam President. It all happened pretty quickly on Friday. I guess at 10 a.m., the governor's office phoned and emailed, and then 2 hours later, the chancellor offered his congratulatory note through a phone call, and then he said, by the way, can you come to the meeting on Monday? And I said, what meeting? But over the weekend, rather than spending my St. Patrick's weekend with green beer and whatnot, I was shuffling my classes for today and rearranging my appointments so I could be here and partake in today's activity in its entirety. I do want to thank the governor and his staff for the confidence bestowed upon me and appointing me to this board. As I often tell my students, I came here as a refugee when I was 8, and 10 years later, I went to study at a private university with a full scholarship in international relations and completed my bachelor's degree in about 3 years. And I did that, and I was able to accomplish that mainly because of the availability of a community college education. And the mission of education for all is something that that resonates with me very deeply. And to this day, every day that I walk into my classroom, interface with my students, I'm reminded of that mission. And I consider it a great honor and privilege, and very humbled to be serving alongside with the distinguished members of this board as we discuss and shape policies that will affect the students throughout the system. So with that, I just want to say thank you so very much for those who have extended their congratulatory notes over to me over the weekend, and I am ready to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Fan. Well, it was great. I also want to take this opportunity to thank Jeff Burdick for his service on the Board of Governors. He was really a terrific contributor to our board. He brought a perspective, a sense of deliberation, really grounded in reality of a professor teaching in the Central Valley. I love that he was an English professor that came in handy at various points through our deliberations. And he was just really a wonderful addition to our board, and we will miss him, but he has made his mark on the Board of Governors, and so we thank him for his service and look forward to honoring him at a future meeting at an appropriate time. And then one last thing in my president's report. Since we last met, a number of us had the privilege of attending the ACT Legislative Summit in Washington, D.C. Vice President Epstein, Board Member Baum, Board Member Haynes, and then we were pleased to have Board Member Malumed join us as well. We had a tremendous whirlwind of meetings with legislative staff and members. Really, I want to commend Ms. Methune, our new legislative vice chancellor, for the incredible number of meetings she was able to set up and the logistics involved with coordinating such a large delegation from the Board of Governors in getting us where we needed to be and informing us of our policy priorities was really terrific. And I think we did make an impact, and we certainly were able to gather important intelligence at a critical time of transition in our nation's capital. So that was really a terrific trip, and thank you. Thank you very much for that. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the Chancellor for his Chancellor's report.
Thank you, Board President Stellano. It's a pleasure to see you all this Monday morning. Happy spring, everyone. And speaking of spring, I want to take a moment to, as we sit here in this boardroom, remember that there are hundreds of thousands of students walking onto our campuses today in the middle of their spring semester. So I want to take the moment to thank all the faculty and the staff of our 113 colleges, all the student leaders who are making the business of the California Community College system happen. So thank you all for your continued service to our great state and our nation, and look forward to celebrating the end of the academic year later this spring. I also want to thank all of the folks that Board President Stellano just mentioned for the trip to Washington, D.C. It was a pleasure to walk the halls of Congress with the members of this board, and to you all who were not able to attend, please know that you were very well represented in D.C., and I look forward to continuing the dialogue with the new administration and with Congress. There are a lot of important issues coming up, as we'll discuss a little later in the update on the federal budget. There are a lot of concerning issues in this budget for our system and our students. So we are going to be paying close attention to Congress over the next few months, making our voice heard and making sure that we protect programs that support students here in California. Also, on the heels of that report, we have begun the budget deliberations here in California, in the Capitol. I had the privilege of testifying side by side with Chancellor Tim White and President Napolitano recently to the Assembly Subcommittee 2 on Education Finance. I think it went very well. I think we made the point that we are one public system of higher education in California, and we want to ensure that the legislature recognizes the importance of funding student success in California. So I want to thank President Napolitano and Chancellor White for speaking as one public system. Soon after that testimony, I had the pleasure of participating in a Public Policy Institute of California dialogue about higher education, and again, sitting side by side with Chancellor White and President Napolitano, we had a chance to address several issues that are impacting our California colleges and universities, and again, highlighting the importance of all of our students and the great diversity of our three systems. And it was a pleasure to hear all three, or the other two systems, continue to voice unity over ensuring that our campuses throughout all three systems remain open to every student, regardless of background. And we will continue that fight and continue to ensure that the administration hears that loud and clear. It also, that week was a very busy week because we also kicked off the first meeting of the Joint Subcommittee on career technical education between the State Board of Education and the California Community Colleges Board of Governors. So I want to thank Governor Haynes, Governor Burdick was also there, and Governor Belinsky for participating. This is really a great moment in time. It really shows that we are bringing together our K-12 partners with the California Community College system and really beginning discussions that will help students make the successful transfer from high school to community college and beyond. So I want to thank the State Board as well as our own members of the Board of Governors for entering into that discussion. I look forward to the great things that are going to come out of that joint subcommittee, and I look forward to other opportunities to work with the CSU Board of Trustees and the UC Board of Regents, although we kind of do work with the UC Board of Regents already. And then I do also want to thank all of the students who came up to testify to the Assembly Higher Education, or the Assembly Budget Committee. We had several students come up, and as always, our voice is most effective when we have students testifying directly in front of our legislators. So I want to thank them. I did notice that there were a few Long Beach City College students there, so I want to particularly thank them for coming up from Long Beach. And then finally, I want to also thank former member of the Board of Governors, Jeff Burdick. He, soon after I was appointed, he reached out to me. I want to thank him personally for his support, for his service to the Board of Governors, and for his friendship. And then my last comment is just to recognize Board of Governor member Sumner for being recognized by the California Daughter of the American Revolution with a Medal of Honor. It's a great distinction, and you made us all very proud. So thank you for your service and for continuing to support our veterans throughout California and throughout the nation. So congratulations, and that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Chancellor Oakley. Okay, so let's move on to the consent calendar. I think the first item of business is the meeting minutes from our January 17th and 18th board meeting. Okay. Are there any additions, amendments, or deletions, or suggestions, or edits that anyone has? Okay, I'm going to be entertaining a motion to approve the minutes. Okay, approved. Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, opposed? No opposed? It's passed. That is our consent calendar. And then on to action items, first starting with the approval of contracts. Vice Chancellor Skinner. Good morning, Deputy Chancellor.
Good morning. President Estolano, Chancellor Oakley, members of the board. The item before you is the approval of contracts and grants. We have a significant number of contracts and grants, as is typical of the March meeting. We're gearing up for the coming fiscal year, and so we're getting the agreements in place in anticipation of that. I was going to highlight a few of them for your attention today. The first is the items 10 through 14. There are a number of contracts and grants related to the disabled students programs and services allocations, and these grants support really the statewide infrastructure for DSPS, technical assistance and leadership that are provided through a grant to a college. In addition, there are a number of contracts for providing technical assistance related to assistive technologies, helping colleges get those technologies in place and operational. There's a contract for supporting closed captioning for our system, and so this is a great example of an efficient, low-cost, centralized contract where we support our colleges and our faculty in putting content up, particularly on online education, where it's critical, but in other settings as well. If faculty have material they want video content that they want to make compliant, they can use closed captioning services provided through the centralized contract. So I would just highlight, again, 10 through 14 with DSPS. And then secondly, there are a large number of contracts and grants related to our workforce and economic development programs. So items 16 through 19 similarly support statewide technical assistance and leadership related to our workforce and economic development programs. The what we call the sector navigators and deputy sector navigators that provide leadership on a regional basis in specific industries to create linkages between employers and our colleges and help to coordinate the development of effective workforce programs. So particularly with the Strong Workforce Program rolling out, I wanted to draw attention to those. And then lastly, I'll just point out that we separated out the College Promise Grants, which will be in a separate action item. And the reason for that is to allow the board an opportunity to delve into that in a little greater depth and give us a chance as a board and as a system to highlight that important program. So with that, if there are questions on any of these items, I'd be happy to entertain them, or we can bring the other vice chancellors up if the questions get into finer grade detail.
Okay, Board Member Belansky.
I just want to highlight what he said already, that having these 5 grants for students with disabilities is extremely important in our system. And these have worked very well because that's where I started my community college work. The only other thing I'd like to say as we move forward is in number 3, where it talks about convening middle college, high school workshops. It'd be nice to get that information so that if it's possible to attend some of those or attend one of those to be more informed, that'd be great. Thank you.
Any other comments? I had one question, Deputy Chancellor. On number 4, the interjurisdictional exchange with Los Rios CCD, have you all identified a specific person who would fill that highly specialized position to oversee the statewide basic skills initiative?
Yes, we have. And so with these interjurisdictional exchanges, that's the way we do it. We identify the talent first and then work with the district to secure that. And so
Can you name the person?
And I believe this is a continuation of one we have in place already, which is Dean Kirsten Corbin, who's been working on our basic skills programs.
Okay.
And you'll have a chance to hear from her, I believe, later today on the program integration. She's also been central to that work.
Great, thank you. If there are any other comments, yes,
I have a
Board
question
Member Perry.
regarding 6. It may or may not be germane to today, but I have a mic, so I get to ask these kind of questions. Does the training, there's a bill that's been introduced to have social workers more engaged in financial literacy for youth in foster care. And it seems like if it's not in the training for the foster parents already now, it might be a good opportunity to include that kind of financial literacy for foster youth, because obviously the kin and the foster parents therewith can play a significant role in increasing foster youth access to education. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Absolutely. I think that's a logical connection, and I'll make note of it. And we also have staff in the room who will make note of that and follow up.
Other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Let's take a second from Budnick. Okay, and a motion from Board Member Hawkins. All right, all in favor, please vote aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, great, it's passed. All right, let's move on then to the MOU with the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, item 2.2. I'm so happy to see this before us. I really am. Read every word of it.
So
Chancellor.
we will turn it over to Vice Chancellor Walker. And again, I'd also like to echo my thanks to both the Student Senate and to Dr. Walker's staff for continuing to work through this, and look forward to hearing where we're at and be able for the board to move this forward.
President Estolano, Vice President Epstein, Chancellor Oakley, and board members. the memorandum of understanding with the Student Senate for the California Community Colleges has been a significant undertaking, and you will notice many individuals who told me that they are not missing classes at their four-year colleges to come today because they were a part of the original work, and so they're here to move this agenda forward as well. So this was. This MOU allows California community college students to authorize a $2 student representation fee if a student body association has been established at that community college and establishes the election of the fee. And inside that fee, the fee authorizes the collection of $2 from each student and $1 used to support the operations of the statewide community college state organization recognized by the BOG. Of course, in our work in participatory governance, it is really important for us, both on our campuses and in statewide opportunities, to have the student perspective. So we feel like this has been a long time coming. My colleague, Peter Kang, in the legal department here in the Chancellor's office, has worked diligently to try to bring all the pieces together, and I'm going to let him take it from this point.
Thank you, Pam. President Solano, Vice President Epstein, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the board. This MOU is a collaboration between the Student Senate, Student Services, and our legal division. This is something that we've been working on for about 2 years or so now. And so the MOU came as a result of the passage of AB 1358, which created the $2 student rep fee that Vice Chancellor Walker just mentioned. Oftentimes you may hear that students do travel, and they travel on their own dime from their respective colleges. So, the $2 student rep fee is intended to help them not only create this proceed forward as an organization, but for them to travel and to advocate on student-related issues. So the MOU is broken down into 3 sections. On page 1 is the ongoing relationship between the Chancellor's Office and the Student Senate. We felt that that was necessary to include because we do have a Student Senate liaison here at the Chancellor's Office who runs interference and does a lot of work for the Student Senate. The fiscal section starts on page 7, which covers the student rep fee and the distribution of that. And then the general legal terms, the boring stuff, is on page 9. So this MOU wouldn't be possible without certain individuals, and I just want to point them out. Former Vice Chancellor of Student Services, Denise Nolden, former Interim General Counsel, Thuy Nguyen, who's now President of Foothill College, former Student Senate President, Dalia Salem, who's here today. She's a former Foothill College student, now at UC Davis. And then also the current Student Senate President, Courtney Cooper, who is currently at Foothill College. So Foothill College is well represented today. Go Owls. So we're open to any questions, any suggestions. Hopefully they're not non-substantive, but we're open to any questions that the board may have.
Board members, do you have any questions? I do, but I'm going to, okay, so we have Board Member Belansky, Baum, and Haynes.
Just to state it again, I think I heard you, is a lot of this has come about because of AB 1358, even though there has been a relationship with the Student Senate over the years. Great. Now, it says in there that there will be a management service agreement and a management service provider and an executive director. How soon will that happen?
Well, as soon as whenever the MOU gets signed, and whenever the Student Senate does enter into a management relationship with the provider, then the funds will be distributed. The reason why, we wanted, or the Student Senate and the Chancellor's Office intended on having them partner up with the management service provider is that there are certain conditions listed in the Education Code, and a lot of it is accounting, back office responsibilities, auditing, and so the students felt that they may not have that knowledge right now,
right.
And so if they can contract
right.
with someone, then that would achieve that purpose. Now, as far
Will
as
that happen quickly, or?
They're in the process, from what I hear, they're in the process of talking to different entities. And as far as the executive director goes, one of the conditions is promoting institutional memory.
Yep.
And these
Right.
students, they graduate, they go on to bigger and better
Right.
things, and the knowledge that they have is now gone. So creating having an executive director helps achieve that. And if the executive director can stay on and help the future student senate leaders, that would achieve that purpose.
And who's the liaison here at the Chancellor's office?
Sitting 2 rows back are both Dean, did she just stand up?
Yeah.
The person standing. Sitting is Dean Margaret Ortega, and under her area is Rosa Estrada, who has been a superb colleague to the students.
Good. It's good to call them out. And the only other thing that I noticed, and I'm assuming it means the executive group of the student government, it says a group of representatives will meet with the chancellor once a month. I'm assuming that's...
Every time they can get in the chancellor's office door, they will meet with him.
Perfect.
Okay, Board Member Baum.
I actually had very similar questions to Member Belinsky, and first off, I wanted to acknowledge Dean Ortega for her work on behalf of students for so many years, and now to have this in place. And again, what type of organization is the management services group? Would that be something like contracting to the foundation to help administer? Can you describe what that would look like?
It potentially could be any number of groups. It could be the foundation to administer. It could be the statewide faculty senate who has been involved in. I just saw our colleagues from CCLC come in at one time many years ago. They were a part of the statewide process. So it's who will be the right set of the right organization for them to work with.
And who would make that selection again? Of that service provider, who would make that?
The Student Senate and the Chancellor's Office in collaboration. The Student Senate would be the one making that selection, but we would help them out in any way.
And they would be the 501c3 of the Student Senate would engage. And would the employee who that they would end up hiring as a executive director, would that be an employee of the state or an employee of the 501c3? Who?
Of the 501c3, so they would not be considered a Chancellor's Office employee.
Our liaison will continue to be Rosa Estrada and will help facilitate anything that needs to happen from a statewide presence.
And is this the first time there's been a formal MOU?
This is actually, to my knowledge, the second time. In 2005, Chancellor Mark Drummond entered into an MOU with the Student Senate, but it was not in regards to a student representation fee. That MOU was rescinded because the Student Senate at the time, I believe it was CalSAC, the members of CalSAC were quite low, so they rescinded the MOU.
Well, and then my last comment, just for our staff on the Chancellor's office too, is when you are empowered with the ability to tax students $1 per student, it's $2 million, and I see a million is set aside for one purpose and $1 million set aside for the other purposes. When I was on the board at Pasadena City College, we enacted a $10 student fee for 30,000 students per semester. Got to be a fund of about 600,000. It's very important to kind of be very transparent about how those funds are used, especially and it's also a great learning experience for students to manage significant resources like that. But at the same time, there's also been significant challenges in the oversight of those funds as they're used, and I'm trusting that this MOU will ensure proper oversight and transparency.
Okay, Board Member Haynes.
Thank you. I too am happy to see this particular MOU. Just a couple of questions. One, and it's, well, an observation. One, it's also good to see the underpinnings of an organization that will be, it's our hope, and I know it's the students' hope, that's going to be accountable. I'm also wondering, and you may not be the folks to answer it, but I'm going to put the question out there, and hopefully it'll be answered by someone. We have 113 colleges. Not every student wants to be assessed the fee, and so to what extent of those 113 colleges is there a sense that one, is there a sense that will most of them assess themselves? And then the question is, in terms of the representation of the entire system of students, how will that work in terms of the student senate, in terms of how that happens relative to I'm kind of mumbling, relative to representation, I guess is what I want to know. Regardless of whether a campus or a college has assessed itself, will it still get the representation of the entire Senate body, and will those folks still stand for election to the Senate or not, I guess is.
So-
and then finally, I did notice, and so correct me if there is a process for an audit so that an assessment of whether or not the funds are being used. This will be an organization like any other organization that deals with funds that will have an audit component to it for part of that clarification.
So to answer your first point about students participating, in the Education Code, Subdivision I does allow students, if their college has passed this via an election, if the student refuses to pay, they can submit something in writing for religious, political, moral reasons, financial reasons, if they don't want to participate in the student representation fee.
Okay.
So there is a mechanism for that particular student to refuse to pay and not have to be submitted to this extra $1. In regards to your second question about student governance at statewide level, I'm not sure if we're in that position to answer that. I think that's probably a question that's maybe better for the students. And then the third question, as far as auditing goes, yes, the Education Code is very clear that after the funds are dispersed to the students, the very next year they do have to do an audit, and it's an independent audit, and it has to be free of any findings in order for them to receive funds in the following year.
Okay, Board Member Phan.
I do recognize the importance of having a collective voice at the system level by the students, and I do echo the sentiment about transparency. My question is around the $2. Can the $2 paid for by the student every semester be from grants, or they'd have to be cash from them? Because as I see my students, I can see some of them right now in my classes. They're homeless. They rely on our food pantry at the campus for their meals. And I suppose they have some form of grants or financial aid or whatnot. And my question is, can the $2 being assessed come from those pots, or it'd have to be cash from their own pockets that they have to go and work somewhere? Or
So for any of the fees that we have on our campuses, whether it's a student rep fee or a health fee, any number of fees that some colleges would have, it comes from the student, but if the student receives financial aid other than a BOG fee waiver, because they don't see that money, if they have financial aid, they certainly can use those resources that way. I think the most important part on these rep fees is that a student, if chooses not to, doesn't, or can't, can sign this waiver that says they don't have the ability to pay, they still are going to have representation by the total body. And I think that's always for any of the fees that happen. But they can use their financial aid if they get financial aid other than a BOG fee waiver, because they don't see those resources.
Okay, Board Member Khan.
So I apologize. These are less questions as they are just acknowledgements. The first thing I'd like to state is there are a number of people who made this possible from both the sides of being students or involved at the Chancellor's office. So before the MOU was even brought up in discussion, I believe Linda Michalowski, former president of the Student Senate, Omar Paz, as well as a few others, were really pushing for this. They saw the need to formalize this agreement, and they saw the potential also in students in really getting their issues across. So a couple of names that haven't been brought up yet. Victor Chavrine, who was previously the vice president of something with the Student Senate. Sorry, the titles keep changing. And Dalia Salem, of course, is here. And then Naima Kalim, who is the secretary for the Student Senate and executive board member. They were all instrumental in bringing this across the threshold in order to actually bring this today for final ratification. The second thing I want to state is that students make incredible sacrifices just to make their way through college. So to have someone like any of these two individuals come forth to you today, missing class for the sake of even showing their sign of support for how important this is immense. So not only you're making sacrifices to be a student, but then to lead and really represent your students that are your classmates, it's absolutely astounding. The third thing I want to say is that as excited as I am about this, I just want to remind everyone that I believe in cautionary optimism. There's a lot that can be done, and there's so much potential for great work. But I'd like to press upon the need for collaboration to continue between the Chancellor's Office and the Student Senate. And secondarily, the issue of institutional memory. I know that's probably something that was brought up a lot during the MOU, but as long as that can be sustained, then you're off to a great future. Last thing I want to say is that I actually have been paying my student rep fee. And the funny thing is, I'm technically enrolled at 3 colleges in the Peralta District to get all my STEM classes out of the way. So I paid it 3 times each semester. So I hope I get extra representation, right?
All right. Board Member Belansky, I think, had one more point you wanted to make.
I just want to reinforce what was said. I was going to say that and then they said it, but locally the students have to vote for the representation fee. It isn't something imposed upon them. In my own district, we had a lot of information come out and then a very special day in which the students voted. And to say again that there are these ways for a student to say, this representation fee isn't something that I can support, and I will sign a statement that I won't be involved with it. And I think that needs to be out there, just how students themselves can speak for this.
Great. If there are no other comments, I have a few questions and comments as well. First of all, thank you, Board Member Khan, for naming the folks who were so involved, so many of the students that were involved. I was delighted to see you guys coming back, and it was really nice to see your faces. And the others that you mentioned, Mr. Paz, Mr. Javadine, who were always here at our board meetings, really worked to elevate the Student Senate to the point where we have this happening. This is impressive. And the level of commitment that shows, and the continuity coming back, even though you're a highfalutin UC Davis student. So it's great. It's wonderful to see you here. So thank you, Board Member Khan, for recognizing those folks. I had some specific questions and that I hope will clarify to other board members the level of detail you all have put into this. I mean, I think you've worked really hard to build in accountability and transparency, some fail-safes, so that the students will succeed. It's a long time coming to this, and so I applaud the mechanisms you put in place. So I want to highlight a few. But first, one question. How much do you anticipate this will generate a year, this extra dollar fee? Do you guys have a sense of that now?
I think Vice Chancellor Rodriguez could answer that.
Okay.
Since we've talked to him. One of the things we always talk about is unintended consequences. So where are the problems when we get to something?
I may be able to answer that question.
Okay, because I imagine it's hard to predict, but do you have a sense of it?
Yeah, it is tough to predict because this is $1 for every semester.
Right.
Students can also refuse to pay. We also have 2 colleges on the quarter system as well, which adds an interesting wrinkle. One of the questions that we've received is, how much money do we have now? Ever since we passed AB 1358, that was in 2014. How much money? So currently there's $125,541, and the list that I have from Vice Chancellor Rodriguez's division is based on 5 different districts, so it's not broken down by college. However, we also received notice that 11 new colleges did have an election and they did pass this. So the funds will continue to increase. So we don't know how much it will increase by, but we know that every year as these students go out there and they do talk to the colleges to have an election, that number will rise.
Great. And so part of that is accountability and showing your value proposition to your fellow students. That's what this is really about. Representative government is only of worth if it's representative and folks actually believe it's doing something for you. So I think that's an interesting opt-out provision, puts the onus on the student representatives to go back and make the case about what's the value that they're adding to their colleagues. Okay, a couple other things. I note that on page 6 there's a annual report that comes to us on attendance accountability. It's page 6 of it. This is under H. That's going to be coming to the board at the March meeting, highlighting the consistency and quality of the participatory governance reports. There's also a provision where we will receive the audit reports on page 8. If you look on D, the second paragraph, no, I'm sorry, E, that annually you're going to provide independent financial audit to the BOG for review. And I don't know how you all intended to do that, but it might be a good information item for us to have, just so that everybody can, if there's any questions about that independent audit, this is an opportunity for folks to come forward. Again, it's part of that transparency and accountability. And then I had another question on page 9 under G, third paragraph. It talks about the BOG or the Chancellor's Office retaining 15% of the gross student representation fees as a contingency reserve. I know there's somewhere else you talked about a 10% reserve. Is that on top of that? Is the 15% contingency on top of the 10%? I was a little bit confused by that. I think there's a holdback somewhere where you keep back 10%. And then I saw this 15%. Is that ringing a bell, Peter?
You know what page the 10% is listed on?
Let me find it.
Page 8, okay.
Yes, annual budget. Thank you, Board Member Belansky. It talks about the first paragraph of D. Over the 12 must generate positive net income reserves equal to at least 10% of the annual revenue per year. So that's the budget has to have a 10% reserve, but then the Chancellor's Office or the BOG will hold back 15% of the gross as a contingency reserve. So I'm not sure how those two interact. One is a budget versus what actually happens in holding it back. So I think it's just to clarify for the students that 15% is going to get held back, but their budget has to at least show that they're going to generate 10% over what they spend.
Correct.
Okay. And I think that kind of does it for me, other than to say, again, thank you to everybody that's been involved in this. This is really a momentous occasion. I want to echo what many of our other board members have said. This is a weighty responsibility, and it's so different when community college students make the effort to do a statewide organization. You guys sacrifice a lot to be in school. You're working hard. You're often working jobs. You face some of the biggest obstacles in higher education. And yet the fact that you are this interested in participatory governance is remarkable. But we want to be with you every step of the way. We want to make sure that you have all the tools you need. And part of that is oversight, but part of that is also mentoring. This is, as Board Member Baum said, a tremendous opportunity for you all to learn, to gain important skills that will serve you well in the future. And with that, I think we're going to take public comment. Vice President Epstein?
Yes, Courtney Cooper.
Board, thank you so much. This has definitely been a long time coming, and riding on the backs of all the hard work of the previous administration. To kind of the question earlier, will we still represent students? Right now, we're in kind of a free rider situation where no matter what, we are representing the students. Within the regional level, even if your school's not active, we will advocate, we will go forward, we will try to make sure that those issues are fulfilled. Last year, AB 1995 was the big headliner. Homelessness is a problem pretty much for every school population. I know especially for areas like Silicon Valley, where I come from with my school district. So there's no doubt that no matter what, if a student opts out of this after their school has opted in, we will still be representing those students to the best of our ability at the statewide level. And to speak to why this is so important, we are the state representative body for 2.3 million students, a diverse population of students. To be able to have a voice at the table of participatory governance as a foster youth, I think less than 5% are expected to actually graduate higher education, and I'm going to be one of those 5%. And it has taken me a very long time, and I've gotten my acceptance letters. I will be walking this spring, and finding out that in participatory governance, where were these decisions made? Who decided when these things would happen to us and how? To find out there's an actual way to go directly to the source and have influence on those decisions and speak up for those individuals who could not sacrifice the time off work, off school, from their kids, etc. To be at the table is very powerful. And I feel as though when we come and we do give our values presentation of why the 2 SRF is so important on each individual campus, that students will recognize that, and hopefully that we will have give them enough faith in us that we will be able to speak on their behalf to keep pushing forward the equity agenda, that we can reach excellence through equity in the state. So thank you so much for your time and for the very detail-oriented thank you to the legal department, for the Chancellor's office, to Dean Ortega, to Liaison Estrada for their diligence, even though there's been some bumps in the road, to still have faith in the ultimate vision of representing the 2.3.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
I believe that Board Member DeLille wanted to move this. Who's my second? Are you moving? Who's voting? You're the voting, so you're going to move? Okay. Board Member Khan, Board Member Hawkins is the second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations. The motion's been approved. Great. That's great. It's great. Okay. We are now moving on to the 2017-18 expenditure plan for workforce and economic development. Vice Chancellor Ton Quinlivan. Welcome to the meeting. It's great to see you again.
Good morning.
And I think we have your presentation in front of us, right? At the dais.
If our AV could flip on, that'd be great. Thank you. Good morning,
Morning.
Chairman Estolano, Vice Chair Epstein, Chancellor Oakley, and members of the board. Today, we ask for your approval for the division's expenditure plan as outlined in item 2.3. This is an annual process, as was mentioned by Deputy Chancellor Skinner, and allows us to begin processing the flow of monies for the following year. As you know, any contract or grants above the $100,000 threshold will come to you again in a review of grants and contracts. I'm here joined by Matt Roberts, Dean of Field Operations in my division, as well as Jamie Nye, who chairs the North Far North Regional Consortia of in CTE for 15 colleges, and he is hosted by the Los Rios Community College District. So I'm going to take you through a few slides that recap the progress that we have made over the last years, and then we're going to deep dive into the status of the Strong Workforce Program and its rollout. As we do every time we have a new program, we want to do a deep dive with you. So as you remember, the California and the Doing What Matters for Jobs and Economy framework started with the conundrum: how do we work with 130 community colleges, recognizing that we needed to deliver on student workforce outcomes mapped to regional economies, and each regional economy has different labor market need, where we have to build different pathways in order for students to successfully get into those industry sectors. Work with me on the slides above, because I inserted a photo from Twitter this weekend that you'll enjoy. And as you all also know, those of you from Central Valley versus those from San Diego, while you may share in common emphasis in advanced manufacturing and health, Central Valley cares more about agriculture, water, environmental technologies, energy and construction, global trade and logistics, whereas San Diego has additional emphasis on life science, ICT, digital media, and advanced transportation. And thanks to your support, we've been able to take this, the recognition of these elements, and really taken the workforce mission of the community colleges from an afterthought to a state policy priority. And in doing so, the federal investment and state investment in this area has grown from $100 million to now over $900 million, as reflected in your board item. And as we look back into how did this transformation happen, we'd like to just discuss with you quickly what are the things that we got right. And they are under these four themes: that we had a unifying framework, we had an ecosystem of entrepreneurs, tools to free the data, and innovations at scales. And all of these will be foundational elements as we move into guided pathways development. under unifying framework, we knew that all of our colleges did good job around career technical education, but it was how do you unify their work? And so in the securing of the 200 million strong workforce program, we had one legislative consultant who's been around the Capitol for over 10 years said, I've been covering education and higher education, and she pointed to this logo and said, but I didn't realize we had a structural issue with regards to delivering workforce program. So this was helpful in just bringing commonality across all of our colleges. In terms of ecosystem to entrepreneurs, Deputy Chancellor Skinner mentioned the sector navigators and deputy sector navigators. You met one of them last time with Jim Caldwell and the net zero energy work. So we put out experts who had relationships, but also could work on the ground to problem solve with our faculty and colleges to support them in getting these pathways aligned with their economies. So the themes, these grants and contracts are put out under the themes of industry sectors, regions, and you'll meet Jamie soon, and technical assistance, such as there's tremendous need for labor market research, tremendous need around data and use of data. So a lot of our expenditures are in that. And this weekend, for those of you who missed last time, what a deputy sector navigator looks like, here's Gurminder Sangha. He is Deputy Sector Navigator from Central Valley in the advanced manufacturing sector, well loved by the employers there, and he's working hard with the colleges. And he shared this picture where students were brought in across 5 counties in the Central Valley to come demonstrate their welding skills and whether or not they met the standards of the American Welding Society. I thought that would be fun. And then you've heard a lot about our work in tools to free the data, especially the Launch Board, which has really just worked to automate data collection and data feed to reduce the burden on faculty and administrators so that they can see and launch conversation on how the students are progressing. And I want to acknowledge the partnership that we have with Vice Chancellor Connick and Tris, as well as Vice Chancellor Tenna in IEPI, because it's been joint work in order to roll out the Launch Board to the field. And lastly, but not least, is we have shifted the way we invested from single college to actually attempting innovations at scale in order to more rapidly benefit students. And so what we attempted to do is put out contracts and grants that engage at least networks of 10 colleges or above or whole region in trying to solve a problem. So if you take a look at the right side, we work with the California Council on Science and Technology. And as a result, we're connecting 35 community colleges into the Maker movement in order to augment learning environments that help facilitate creative economy skills. There will be an article coming up soon at a national level. There's 3 institutions that's going to be featured. The first is Yale. The second is UC Berkeley. And the third will be a mention of the California community colleges because of this strategy. In the middle, we hear a lot about soft skills, employability skills, day one skill, power skill, whatever you call it. There's a lot of discussion. It doesn't matter if you're CSU, UC, a 4-year or 2-year, about students needing to arrive at the work site with these skills. So 16 colleges have developed the new world of work, and it includes also an experiment with digital badging where the employers can badge when they see these skills demonstrated in students. This was just recently recognized by the Mozilla Foundation as a promising practice in badging. And then lastly, but not least, on the left, you see our work with attempting a mobile app. So what we wanted to do was take the intelligence in the Salary Surfer, which has all the wage and earning power of our CTE programs and certificates and degrees. We partnered with the Young Invincibles and our foundation, thanks to Keitha Mills, in early career exploration by developing this mobile app, and we took it into the region of the Inland Empire first because of its high Latino population and low education attainment rate. And because of the success and the feedback we have there, we are taking it to scale in the rest of the state and working with on-the-ground partners on that. So these are some of the examples of us investing in innovations to scale. And so now I'd like to turn over to Dean Matt Roberts to give you a deep dive in the rollout of the 200 million Strong Workforce Program.
Thank you, Vaughn. Good morning, members of the board. Good morning, Chancellor Oakley. Good morning, President Estolano. As you know, the Strong Workforce Program has been rolling out over the past several months as a result of the legislation being passed. And so we've been very, very busy with technical assistance in the field. We've been very busy to ensure that this first year of rollout, we were wrapping around the colleges and ensuring that we were answering questions. We wanted to make sure that we put things out in an efficient manner to ensure that they had access to not only putting forth their proposals or their plans for spending dollars, but also leading the way to the outcomes and the measurements down the road. So I think in terms of a logical progression, we're off to a great start. And you can see the slide in front of you. This is the 200 million Strong Workforce Program rollout. It's to, the mantra is more and better CTE aligned with labor market needs. And if you look at the regional plans on our website, the Strong Workforce website, which just came in as of January 31st, so hot off the presses, you'll see a deep aspiration to dig deeply into the labor market information data, to do a scan, to make sure that they're engaging and collaborating with the partners. And so that's very, very clear when you pick up, if you were to pick up one of those reports and see. The workforce outcomes are aligned with federal metrics. So in other words, the WIOA alignment continues across the board, whether it be with Strong Workforce, or adult education, or even with our K-12 partners. So there's definitely a concerted effort to move that along. And then also regional planning with a wide range of stakeholders, making sure that everybody's in the room. Because after all, the systems are not that indifferent, and we're not that mutually exclusive. A lot of the talk in the regional plans have to do with pathways and pathway development, leading to work-based learning education, et cetera. And then lastly, the 60% of the local shares and the 40% of the local shares after a 5% state leadership, those monies were all allocated and pushed out to the regions and the colleges as of now. So we're off to a good start. You can see the first year rollout a graphic to the right there, which just kind of goes through things. February 1st, which was not too long ago, all reports and analytics made available to the public. So we're hoping that you're getting good use out of those reports. The next one. This is kind of a snapshot. If you go to the Strong Workforce website, there's an analytics page and for the regional plans. And basically, this is one of the slides or one of the graphics. You can mouse over them, and you can kind of see the different expenditure amounts per region. So these are circles based on regions. You see the Bay Area, Inland Empire, Los Angeles, Orange County. The colors are coded so you can see exactly what priority sectors the regions were wanting to make as priorities and put their dollars into. And so you can see the larger amounts. Advanced manufacturing, advanced transportation and renewables is another one. Agriculture, depending on the area, whether it be Central Valley or North Far North. All sectors or cross sectors is the gray area. And you can see with San Diego, most of their expenditures were done in all sectors. And all sectors just basically means it's touching different areas. So it's not necessarily one specific program or plan, but one that sort of touches multiple areas. And so it's a way to I guess, concertedly bring forth an initiative. So you can see here these different graphics. The total budgeted for the regions was $73 million, and this one came in at $73,454,000. Total number of proposals in the pipeline at this point are 203. The regions are still going through the proposals, and they're indicating which ones are funded, which ones are not. And so this will go through another iteration. It will say these are the number of proposals that were funded, et cetera. Okay.
So to give you a flavor of how it works within the region, we invited Jamie Nye to share with you.
Thank you. As Vaughn mentioned, I'm Jamie Nye, Associate Vice Chancellor of Instruction for Los Rios Community College District. I also chair the North Far North Regional Consortium on my free time. I want to, before I begin, say a special welcome to Monfan. I hired him when I was the business dean at Cassandra Server College, and what a wonderful hire. Walked him through that tenure process, and I'm so happy to see him here. I also want to say a special hello to Governor Haynes, who's also, of course, on the Los Rios board and a valued trustee. So for the Far North region, on the 40% side, I'm going to talk about that. We had about $7 million, $5.9 million for regional collaboration and consensus projects, and $1.1 million for projects in common. We did a run through with this, of course, with the $50 million CT Enhancement Fund. And so we had some familiarity with how we would run a process. That was a new process for regions that really had resources coming in. So one thing we did was we didn't want to bring everything to a vote where you have 15 colleges, there's a proposal, and then you need some kind of majority vote. There are winners and losers in that type of model, and we didn't want to have everything contested. So we really depended on labor market analysis to see what are the needs, let's talk to industry, and what makes sense for us as a region. Then we trusted the colleges to make sure we're doing collaborative projects. So we had what we called collaborative projects and consensus. So we did have votes, but we only voted on about $1.1 million of the regional. The others were more of a sort of a formula basis, but it had to involve multiple colleges or regional projects. So all of the 40% side truly is regional, and all the investments support regional labor market needs and align to the regional workforce. I'm going to give a few examples, but you see on top here on the slide, advanced manufacturing. So I wanted to drill down into that. And at a recent Board of Trustees retreat in Los Rios, Trustee Haynes came up with a good question, and I think that many of you would have a similar question. We talk a lot in sectors, and we talk about deputy sector navigators and sector navigators, but a question a lot of folks have is, what specific jobs are you training for and which programs? So let me drill down, and all of these are in our regional plans, which are displayed on the Doing What Matters website, but I want to drill down just an example for advanced manufacturing. So in the Far North region, there are 930 businesses that would be in advanced manufacturing. Between 2010 and 15, there was about an 8% growth, about 28,000 workers. Give you an example of some of the areas: food processing, chemical manufacturing, machine shops, computer and electronics production. The largest is computer manufacturing, which is 2,600 jobs. So projected growth, and a lot of this data comes through the Centers of Excellence. At Los Rios, we do house the statewide director, Laura Coleman, and also our regional director, Teresa Milan. So petroleum and chemical products, turbine and turbine generators, food manufacturing, packaging machinery, semiconductor machinery, welding equipment, and machine tools. All of those are projected to grow about 20% in the next 5 years, resulting in about 1,200 jobs. So what does that mean? Well, 100 new jobs in our region in advanced manufacturing translates to about $44 million in economic impact. So 100 jobs is about $44 million in economic impact. And that includes payroll, new construction, taxes, and average salaries. And I'll give a few job types, but we're ranging between the 30s to 118,000, depending, and usually that's on the information communication technology side. But the median is about $56,400. Livable wage, which I always read that twice because livable wage, it doesn't seem possible to me, but it's $22,400. That's a single person, no family. But that technically in the Far North region is the government's definition of livable wage. So a few of the types of jobs would be maintenance and repair workers. For the Centers of Excellence, labor market information, we say that we have 524 annual job openings in that specific area. Industry, machinery, mechanics would be 94 annual job openings. Machinists would be 63. We have many programs in our region in this, but we're targeting about 38 specific programs in advanced manufacturing. The nice thing about this money is a lot of it is braided, so we took the regional, and we have a principle that if you're not willing to put in local money to support your own programs, we don't have a strong interest in giving you regional money to do that. So it was sort of the idea that you should have some skin in the game locally. And that was a principle that worked very well. A couple more examples of the types of things that we...
Brief examples.
Oh, sure. We have the expansion of our HVAC program. We have at Sacramento City College, and that really is a one-year pre-program. Now they can go into residential, then they can go into commercial the following year while they're working and take night programs. And we also are partnering with Sacramento Employment Training Agency to recruit employers for job placement to place our students immediately upon completion. Sure. So just to share one quote, and it's related to the advanced manufacturing from our region. And this is from Deborah Sutphin, who's a vice president of instruction at Sierra College. That's one of our colleges in our region. Our strong workforce task force here at Sierra College is driving amazing and long-needed changes to our CTE areas. Our team is very driven and committed, and our advanced manufacturing work through strong workforce funding is driving both local and regional excitement at both our high school feeders and our area businesses. Additionally, the Strong Workforce Program is driving the assessment and revitalization of our long moribund auto program, which has failed over the years to keep pace with industry needs both locally and regionally. The logic of the Strong Workforce Program is hard to resist, so thank you for devising it and for minimizing the hurdles to implementing it at the colleges. The proof of our success is in implementing it will be increased students here at Sierra in CTE, and we really feel like we're doing that in a big way, not only at Sierra College, but all the 15 colleges in our region, and certainly representing the regional chairs across the state, statewide.
All right, so let me close. Two of the most difficult action items on the 25 Strong Workforce Task Force recommendations were the monies and the streamlining curriculum approval. That's the two areas we asked for your help. So you here now have seen a readout on the rollout of the monies. And in the last board meeting, you heard about streamlining curriculum approval. So we've 25 out of the 76 sub-bullets have been completed, and we've made progress on all 24 out of the 25. And I want to acknowledge Linda Wall and Julie Bruno behind me, who served on the Strong Workforce Task Force. And of course, everything that we do is very visible. It's right here on the Doing What Matters website, and all of these reports are made available there because we know we have a lot of partners, and so we want to be as transparent as possible. So let me pause with that and ask for, I want to make sure I do ask for your action.
Got it. Thank you, Vice Chancellor. Okay, I have Board Member Avalos, Epstein, Baum, Fan, Budnick.
Wow.
Avalos, because he sits there. You grew.
My lord.
No, you get a, it's like, yeah, okay. Go ahead, Board Member Budnick.
I'm just wondering if you have this chart statewide. I'm on the site right now. I can't find it. Does this chart exist statewide in terms of where the resources went?
Yes.
Great. Can someone either direct me there, send me an email, or?
Yes. We'll send you an email.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have Board Member Vice President Epstein.
Hi, it sounds like a great amount of progress. Congratulations to everyone. I just have one question. In the proposed budget by the Trump administration, is there any risk to this program? Is there any any of the federal money involved in this, or is this all state money?
We have about 64 million that comes from the feds, and that one may fluctuate based on the federal budget.
Just at 64 out of 200 or 64 out of 900?
900.
Board Member Baum.
Thank you for the presentation, and I'm so glad that this board launched this effort to focus on workforce education and development. And I, again, want to also add my thanks to the task force, members of this board and people throughout the system who participated in providing this roadmap. Now that you're documenting tremendous progress to the one voice also I want to hear loudly and clearly is, especially as we see both at a local level but at a national level, is the employers. And to the extent that we have employer testimonials, employer statistics to share, I think that would be very helpful. And I would love to hear from each sector, the business community saying, we need workforce training in these areas, and this is how the community colleges delivered it to strengthen our business and then in turn strengthen our region. And to what extent are you engaging and publicizing and amplifying the voice of the employers?
One of the Strong Workforce Task Force recommendation actually had to do with improving not only awareness for CTE by the students in our communities, but also by the employers who had limited awareness for these good programs. And so perhaps in an upcoming board meeting, Vice Chancellor Paul Feast and I can preview the CTE rebrand work that's going to be done with them and bring in some employer voices.
Yeah, because and one anecdote, so I was in a meeting not too long ago that convened business leaders from LA, Orange County, and San Diego County, and somebody who was involved with the Port of San Diego said, I'm at a loss for some of these jobs that pay very, very well, but the training is lacking. And obviously I contacted Constance Carroll saying, aren't you in touch with them to make sure that is done? And she in fact had been, and they had been working together. But I want to preempt any of these comments by actually leading with the message that the employers are benefiting from this type of training.
Thank you. Board Member Phan.
I do want to applaud the innovative strategy that Jamie, that you have created in forming networks of colleges, because I think that can erase some of the overlaps that colleges in the region may have. And as a faculty on campus, I can see the hype and the excitement among CTE faculty and administrators as these dollars are rolled out into actual programs. I don't know if I have a question or an observation. Maybe we don't have enough time for you to answer in terms of a question, but perhaps an observation. These are big dollars that the state is committing to. And I think it's extremely important that we document outcomes as we roll out these dollars at the region or the college level. And if we could focus on whoever is receiving the grant to gather and document the number of students who have completed the program and are actually in jobs, I think that would be music to the ears of the legislature and the governor as they invest so much dollars into this program.
Thank you. We have brought copies of evaluations on each one of these programs. So we have to do annual evaluations, so we're happy to share those as well.
Board Member Haynes.
Thank you. I have a really deep interest in this area, so I'm really glad of the rollout. And I just want to put on record that for many students, they don't even know about the opportunities in these different career ladders and these certificates. And so as we continue to roll this out, I want to make certain that our students are as excited about the opportunities in these different fields, because it's really key, and the wages attached to them. My observation has been that it's a student who tells another student about a program that they've gone through, which is powerful, but we also need to do due diligence that our faculty, our staff are reaching students, and in particular students of color, because we will not be able to meet our our goals relative to hires in these industries unless we do that kind of work. But it's a great job so far. Thank you.
Board Member Khan?
So I actually wanted to highlight a piece from your website, and I want to thank all of you for being present, and especially Dean Matt Roberts. We met a long time ago, and it was specifically about what I'm going to ask you about today. So on your website, you had a top 10 sector profiles. It's a little window you can access, and I actually thought that was amazing because it gives you a quick snapshot from both the quantitative side, looking at like the winners and losers graph to see which careers are growing versus those that aren't. As well as like the industry outlook, which gives you kind of the outlook into the upcoming years as to what to expect. How, if at all, is that integrated into the application here to career?
So when you visit Here to Career, there's the labor market research is from EMSI. It's a proprietary vendor, is actually tied into that application. So you'll see similar ups and downs and sideways.
Great, and really quick follow-up. I was part of a panel where we kind of discussed some work on it, but that was a while back. Do you know if we can get any more information about the current progress with the application or how it's developed so far? Thank you so much.
Okay, Board Member Belansky.
I'll start by saying thank you for the amount of information, not necessarily on the PowerPoint, but in our agenda because of the 7 funding streams. And as we move forward, it will be helpful to hear about how those funding streams are working and how it's doing out in the field. The other thing I would say is I see a link between this and what the board member Haynes and I and Jeff Burdick are on, and we went to our first meeting, the California Workforce Pathways Joint Advisory Committee. And it was clear with the 3 members from the California Board of Education that that's the focus. You know, what are the pathways for students, and to get students more knowledgeable about a pathway, not necessarily a single place to go and get a degree or a certificate. And I think the other thing that you point out is this issue of middle skill credentials, so that a community college credential or degree is helpful. And I can't remember the number of jobs you said in California, maybe you could say it, Vice Chancellor, of
Yes, the Strong Workforce Task Force focused on creating 1 million more middle skill credentials.
Yeah, 1 million. And so I think that, you know, the work that we're going to be doing, because it was very clear at that first meeting of the California Workforce Pathways Joint Advisory Committee that they don't want this to be something that's quick and over, but they'd like to see it move on so that we could begin to do a better job at pathways and to start that early in the K through 12 system.
Board Member Sumner, followed by Board Member DeLilly.
I was just going to say, you know, when you look at education at the very bottom and you just see a little orange on it, it just sort of saddens me that educators don't make more money, that we can't really encourage, you know, the students to want to become educators, because we have to look at who are going to become our future educators to get paid. But when you tie technology into it, you know, I just sort of see where they go hand in hand, because everything is technology based. So a lot of the teachers that are here now are like, you know, we're off balance. So it's something we need to really look at in the future. I just think it's really important, because it saddens me when I see, okay, education down here. Now that I'm on the Board of Governors, I'm like, education, we need to really move that up no matter how we do that. But technology is going to become huge in that. So,
Right. Board Member DeLilly.
I believe my question was echoed by several other members, but we have this great program. Are we taking any efforts to outreach this? I see the Here to Career app, which is amazing, but what other advertising outreach efforts do we have to get this great program out?
Vice Chancellor Fees can, I'm speaking on his behalf. He's run a process in which we've selected Ogilvy in order to help our agency, and they've gone through extensive assessment, and now they have created a set of videos that they're testing in the field to communicate about career, to reinforce the message around career education. They've also engaged the Young Invincibles to help bring out that message into the field. In addition, there's been videos developed on the Salary Surfer career, so that when you play with the mobile app, you can also look at videos. And they feature students, so to your point, to the earlier point. So that phase has not really begun to be unleashed yet, but it's coming.
Great. Any other comments from other board members? All right. I have a couple of comments. I've been playing with your app, so I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be multitasking. It's really cool. I like it. It's great. Very easy to use and very interesting. I've been taking a survey about whether I'd like to teach kids sports, whether I like. It's cool. I'm interested in what career is meant for me. But I did have a specific question just to go into the board motion itself, and it's on the last page, page 56. So you go through these different funding streams, and I was just curious, on the nursing program, which is the last page, the last sentence of that section says, the Chancellor's Office conducts a non-competitive grant application process to award grants for a 2-year fiscal cycle. Why non-competitive, and what is that? That just seems really odd.
Specific to the nursing grant, it's based on formula. So for colleges, it's based on a number of seats of nurses that they put through, and so it runs a formula.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. And I think with that, Chancellor Oakley, do you have any other comments before we entertain a motion?
Yes, thank you, Board President Solano. I just want to make a couple of closing comments. I think a couple of things. First, to the question that came up earlier, I think Governor Vaughn brought it up. This is an area where we are going to be very focused on outcomes and measuring outcomes. This gives us the opportunity to really not only focus on how we measure outcomes and support outcomes.
Wow. The voice of God.
But also gives us a window of opportunity to think about how we extend that to other programs that we offer. Because I think going forward, well, I don't think, I'm sure going forward, the issue of outcomes is going to become increasingly important as we have finite taxpayer resources. There is a specific ask of our colleges to really get students prepared, entering the workforce, transferring to our four-year institutions, and we're going to have to continue to drive that process. So this gives us that opportunity to really think about how to do that. I know that the 17% committee that Vaughn is working with is working on some of those metrics and measurements and how we hold ourselves accountable. So we welcome that conversation going forward, and I welcome the opportunity to hear what they come back with. The other point I want to make is this is a microcosm into the larger picture that we're trying to paint around guided pathways. This is an excellent example of where we're trying to go because this extends well beyond the community college sphere. There is a lot of great work happening in the K-12 sector that aligns very nicely with where we're going. And so there's a lot of moving parts, I know right now, but if we think about where we're going in the next few years, it is about aligning pathways for students, regardless of where they want to go, that there is a clear, navigable pathway that has some predictable outcomes for them. And so as we continue to roll out this entire framework, it's a good example of what we should expect going forward for all of our programs. So I want to thank you all for the work that you're doing in leading this effort.
Great. Okay, I'm going to entertain a motion. Okay,
Second.
Board Member Belansky, second by Board Member Hawkins. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll be back at 10:30. Thank you.